Want to see the black base version of what BlackWarGreymon can do? Then be sure to check this out.
So for our first feature match today, we're going to be playing against the Yellow Vaccine Angels deck with our black base BlackWarGreymon. Here we are going first, and we're looking at our hand right here, and this is one of the most challenging parts, is deciding where you want to mulligan, especially when it comes to like Greymon based decks, because you do really want to prefer to see your line, but at the same time I'm just thinking, okay, if I mulligan, I can potentially get a way worser hand, and that's again a very pivotal decision right off the bat, which can basically, you know, make it change entirely whether if you're gonna win or lose in this entire situation. We decided to keep it in the end just because I thought I could Digimon to Agumon and I could probably find a level 4, and worst case, I'll just play this tie right here and set up a little bit early. But as you guys can see, the situation doesn't look good at all because we don't have a level 4. We're really just missing that. And if we can find one, then we can build a stack even if it's suboptimal. I was really happy at first to see this Greymon X, but then I remembered I can't Digivolve on top of any black rookie, and at that moment it's kind of one of the reasons why I don't play a lot of this one. It's nice to have, but I only play like 2 copies or so just to keep it as limited as possible, because after all, we are playing a black base. When it comes to the black base, it's kind of hard to include more of that because there's a lot of clunkiness when it comes to building your stack. Therefore, I decided to hard slam this. I am giving my opponent a little bit more memory to work with. They have a TK setup, so they go to 3 anyways, but we'll give them a little bit extra, which of course you can see we're getting punished in the end. But in this current format, in this current modern game day, it's very important that you put down a Digimon as soon as possible, even if you're bricked, because that's how you sort of play around. Digivolving is going to be your #1 priority to play it out and to sort of unbrick yourself, because otherwise, if your opponent speeds up with their momentum and they build into their stack and they can go aggressive, they can finish you off very quickly, which is not what you want to see. Here again, I was thinking like, oh, I'm lucky I can find myself an Agumon X antibody and try to search here again, and I can potentially find a level 4, but really unfortunate, we're still not seeing the stuff we hear. So we're doing the exact same play now. So I'm gonna hard play that Metal Greymon, give them a little bit more memory again, but we're applying as much pressure as possible. We need to have board presence, and not having board presence is gonna cause you to lose the game essentially. We can't afford to just hard pass these days, and again, like I mentioned earlier, that's exactly why. And here again, we're trying to try and Digivolve as much as possible. You know, I can go into my Metal Grey X later and cycle through more cards, and I'm really trying to showcase you guys that with a bricked hand sometimes, which does happen, these are some of the methods that you can actually try to do to play it out. We're going to use our Taikamiya. We're actually going to give it the blocker to Metal Grey X here, I believe. I think we didn't clarify that in the beginning. I can't quite remember. But here I'm contemplating, because I think they have a way to sort of get rid of our stack somehow when we build into it, because a lot of our top end stuff are actually virus, and virus is actually one of the biggest weaknesses against Agumon and Yellow Vaccine, because they can easily remove it. I did decide to go into our BlackWarGrey early here just to take out the TK, and I'm trying to, you know, play some Tamer control later on. And as you guys can see, all they have to do is move up with Patamon, and they find an Agumon in security. They go into it, which is kind of likely for most cases anyways. They gain a ton of value, gain a ton of memory, draw tons of cards from all of that, and they can easily just swing with Agumon and get rid of our BlackWarGreymon. But here it's not too bad. I kind of planned that and knew that was going to happen either way. I was really just trying to unbrick my hand so I can see a new line I can now play instead, and I was just kind of trying to rebuild from there and then try to play like the control game, since BlackWarGreymon is just really good at control overall. It seems like they're not really playing aggressive on us either. Earlier they could have swung with the Venusmon, but now they finally decide to do so. I think, you know, which gives us a bit more time to set up, which is really good. BlackWarGreymon is just, again, really good at control. Sometimes the later the game goes, it just gets stronger and stronger as well. We find ourselves the Greymon with a security effect letting us play a tie for free, and now we get to set our memory at 3 at the beginning of a turn, which is gonna, you know, give us all the value we have for the rest of the entire game, which is really important here. And yeah, it seems like they go for TK, and they're just trying to search for more things and, you know, cycle through their security. There was no need to tap it either because we'll go to 3 anyways. Now situation looks really good. I can choose to either hard play this Agumon to search and then Digivolve Agu X on top of it, but I kind of want to make sure there's a stack building at the back just because I want to respect the board a little bit. After all, when it comes to Yellow Vaccine Angels, they do have some like DP reduction effects, as you guys can see from Magna Angemon. Seraphimon reduces DP as well and such. So we don't want to just build outside like carelessly either. Finding the BT8 Agumon is very fantastic here because then I could pass them perfectly to 3 since they have the Memory Tamer anyways, and potentially search for 2 targets. But right now, we're missing another piece. We're missing a level 6 now at this point. And we're just trying to cycle through and dig through our deck as quickly as possible, trying to find them. You know, we only seen that first BlackWarGreymon, which we played earlier, and yeah, the rest of them are nowhere to be seen. So we gotta continue to Digivolve as much as we can and try to cycle. They're popping off really crazily. Like here, they just got a ton of value. They're Digivolving into Rise Gray and then Rise Gray X on top, using Emissary of Hope as well at the same time. Now going to Seraphimon, just clearing our board. And situation doesn't look really good either there. They didn't use the TK just yet, which I think is actually pretty smart because they actually want to see what pieces they can cycle and draw into from their deck and then decide at the final point of how much memory they want to gain, so then they can play around effectively on how much memory you have. After all, Rise Greymon doesn't have the on-play effects either. They're also just trying to not really use the TK on-play effects. They don't want to add up adding the Seraphimon potentially from the top of their deck to the top of their security to their hand, because then they can't use the Emissary of Hope either. So it's really challenging when it comes to like playing Yellow Vaccine for that. You really got to know your security and know when to juggle. Thankfully, our security is actually absolutely stacked here. That's where all our level 6s are. Our BlackWarGrey X, our Omni X is all in there. We took down the Seraphimon by security battle here. And still, they're able to establish a pretty good board. We are so little security. We only have 1 left. And you guys know it's the BlackWarGreymon that was tucked under in the beginning. We're against 8 security of the opponents. So we decide here to switch gears. But I'm going to show you, we're going to clear their board here either way, because BlackWarGreymon is really good at that kind of control, deleting things, de-digivolving, as you guys can see, going into Metal Gray, going into Metal Gray X afterwards. And yeah, I'm gonna clear their board out right here. And like I mentioned, I'm gonna switch gears and I'm gonna play defensive. And all I really need to do is to continue to survive and control for as long as possible to win this game. This going through all that security is gonna be a huge challenge. But at the same time, I realized our opponent there seemed to have cycled a lot of cards from their deck and they recovered so much. Their deck is actually looking rather thin. And this is why I decided that, hey, if we're able to control and go for the late game in this particular matchup, in this particular game as well, we can actually win via deck out instead. And that was my goal, and I realized here, because going through all that security can potentially give them a lot of value, and they could also do a bunch of things at the same time. So as long as we sort of reading the situation, making sure we are okay, and not letting them attack us, and we're going to play the traditional black style. We're going to play black blockers, black defense style, and we're going to slowly whittle them down from all their resources. We found our second BlackWarGreymon in our hand, as you guys probably see. The next turn, we can pop both their TKs, and they know we're going to do it because we switched it off Agumon as well, I believe, and they know. So by taking out those TKs, we're again depleting their resources. We're clearing their board. We're controlling the game. We're actually in the driver's seat compared to them, because now they're pressured to try and take us out. They really need to, but we're always getting blocker thanks to the BT12 tie on there, which is always fantastic, because once you establish on board, you're always going to have blocker, and they're going to have to get around that, which is really tough. And which is why they're probably taking their time to think and sort of see how they can strategize. Even just with 1 security, the amount of pressure we can apply as the BlackWarGreymon, even in the black base, is just really neat. Ideally, I like to build the stack with the Memory Gain Agu and the Memory Gain Greymon from the starter deck, so we can even disrupt their turns when we switch attack targets. But of course, in the beginning of Starter Main Phase with Tai, we're giving our Metal Gray X stack blocker. We're just going to pop off both their TKs regardless. And we are probably even trying to swing over the Rapidmon. At first I was like, huh, you're playing Rapidmon with no armor purge? That's very interesting. It seemed like they didn't have a rookie to slap down either, but here we got surprised. We disrespected the Magna Angemon Ace, and that was actually huge for them, swinging back a little bit more in their favor now, because, you know, the next turn they can swing twice and, you know, go for Pillowmon first and then Magna Angra, and we'll be doomed. So we had to establish another blocker here. We need that Greymon. The black Greymon there particularly has blocker by itself, which is really good. And it has extra 1k thanks to the BT12 Agumon, so we're at least effectively 6k. And if we do block, we have our Tai Kamiya, which is the Memory Tamer, when we switch an attack target, we can gain extra 2k and draw 1. So here, I'm just trying to make sure that I'm not giving them enough memory to go into their level 6 for free. But of course, if they have Emissary of Hope, it's going to be very, very difficult. Here, which they do play it. And I think if they find themselves a Seraphi in their security, then they could easily just basically like take us out and win from there. But it seems like they don't, because it seems like they're sort of hesitating and they're not thinking twice about it. Or they're thinking twice as they're looking through their security, and it doesn't seem like they have it. Probably the Seraphi is actually in their hand. They have a really big hand, honestly. They cycled and draw so much. Maybe it just makes sense to go into Seraphi from hand instead of Emissary of Hope either. But anyways, the situation looks okay for us. Or maybe the Seraphi could have been trash either. Not entirely sure. Or it depends on how many they run too. So it looks like they're going to Geo Grey, which tells me they don't have a level 6 that they can easily, reliably get into in their security. Now they're really panicking because now they're trying not to draw cards. Because if they draw cards, we're gonna win. Our deck has way more cards compared to theirs. They're on a ticking bomb right now. There's time is ticking for them. They have to find a way to get rid of us. They have to find a way to take us down as well. Without sort of like passing turn with 2 cards left. And they decide to swing here. And we're just like, are you sure? Because if you do swing, Ace Overflow is going to happen regardless, because we know that the card is BlackWarGreymon. So, you know, here we're conversing and seeing if that's a better play. Maybe it is. Maybe if they swing right here. And then if they do, I guess we're down to no security, but it does effectively pass the turn. I think they do want to, you know, go through with TK here. But we're also going to say, hey, if you do TK, and if you put something back in security, you're gonna have to draw another card with Tokomon as well. so we let them take it back anyways, and they're really pressured because of that situation that they're in, which is really unfamiliar. But we're okay here. We're gonna Digivolve into our Greymon, the black one, go into a Greymon X finally, and we're gonna continue to cycle through our deck as much as possible, so we're gonna find our pieces. Finally, we see our defense training. That's one of the cards I was gonna mention in early stages of the game that you really want to see for your mulligan, which we didn't, which is why we probably should have. Otherwise, our whole situation could have been better. But now we're gonna start control them back. We're gonna go back into Metal Greymon. D-Digivolve is fantastic because it can just give us Ace Overflow. We gain the 3 memory back as well. We have a Gaiomon, which can do exactly the same thing as a follow-up again. And we're just doing some math to make sure that we can sort of like swing. We can still blitz and swing even, but we kind of get Ace Overflow. We're counting their security. We're respecting for a potential 4th Magna Angemon Ace, I believe. I wasn't keeping count during the game, so I wasn't entirely sure. But now we're doing some math. If we swing in the Geograve, we should have enough DP to go into, even if they reduce all our DP with Magna Angemon Ace right there. Even if they don't recover, they get to minus like 7k or 8k to our stack, which is one of the Black base's sort of weaknesses because it doesn't have enough DP power, but it has pretty good control and sometimes it has pretty good aggression. The one I'm particularly playing specifically is better control overall. It's pretty hard on control, but not super strong on the offensive side of things, which is Gaiomon comes in really clutch in these situations because with security plus attack 1 is really great. I decided to go for Hades Force even without X antibody to reduce cost. I just felt I really needed to clear that board. I don't want to give them any more further value. I want to sort of like just wipe out their board, force them to rebuild all over again. And here, because they have so little resources, they don't want to Digivolve any further. The moment they Digivolve, they cycle through a card from their deck and we just can win easily. So they're just trying to go for a wide strategy and try to sort of like make multiple attacks later on. But we still have really good removal. Thanks to the Metal Greymon in Hurtable, we can swing over unsuspended things. We still get blocker thanks to the BT12 tie. And here we're just going to be like, okay, we just need to set up blockers and give them as little memory to work with as possible here. Which I Digivolve into that Greymon, which itself is also a blocker, which is fantastic. Then we can give them a little bit lesser memory than we normally could. I contemplated on whether if we really should have like suspended the tie because we kind of just like choked them at 1 memory, but I kind of wanted to cycle through a little bit. I felt like I was pretty confident with 2 blockers, and as long as we give them no more than 3 memory, there's not a whole lot they can really do here. And yeah, they drew their last card of their deck anyways. They tried to attack. There's nothing they could do. We block all of it, and yeah, we just simply pass turn and win the game just like that.
I'm super excited to let you guys know that the AVAULT store is now live, and this would not be even happening if it weren't for you guys. Thank you all for the support. We got a bunch of awesome stuff for all of you. Plus, everything is 15% off for the grand opening sale, so be sure to check it out.
Okay, so for the second game, we're going to be playing against Examon, which is also a kind of like a king of control deck. We are going first once again. This time our hand looks way better. We do see a level 3, a level 4, search cards all at the same time. So we have a lot of options. So it definitely makes sense to keep it. Defense training, we get to showcase and utilize it a little bit in this game as well. When it comes to this matchup, all it really is like in the early stages, we're just trying to build our stack. We're searching, they're searching, you know, whoever gets into their sort of big stack, you know, later on or faster probably would have the more ideal sort of like advantage overall. And it really depends on what sort of pieces they sort of find, because Examon can really heavily control. It can force attacks, it can unsuspend, and it's very good at controlling, and it can also trash security just like us as well when it comes to BlackWarGreymon. So here, you know, we're both playing it slow. We're just trying to find our stuff and build into our, you know, boss Digimon eventually. And we have a very nice clear line. We have a 5 and then a 6 afterwards. We have really good follow-up. Things are looking pretty good for us overall. They decide to chip away with a Dracomon right here, and they find ourselves the Greymon, the security one once again, which is fantastic. We do play quite a lot of those in this deck, and it always gives us value. We get to play out a tie for free from that, and we're just going to stack up multiple ties, which will give us, again, the long-term value for the rest of the game when it comes to digivolving into our stack and giving us blocker, extra 1k, and the power that we need. Here, Examon sometimes can be really strong because at this moment, when they have all their pieces, they go into the level 5 right there, and then they can just hard slam the other level 5, and then they can just do the end of turn DNA with the effects, go into Examon, tuck in, ideally break Dramon as you guys can see, and play out the Slayer Dramon, and there they go, their perfect stack. And we're going to be forced to have to answer this at this moment. We're thinking about the push out. We're thinking if we can actually answer this board, because at the start of the main phase, they are going to force us to attack. We have started main phase effects too, where we're ties, we can give extra DP, and we feel like we're okay because we have a lot of memory to work with. We're actually fine. There's actually a way to sort of not like clear the board, but like answer this board at least. Because we don't want this setup, their setup, to stick around for too long, because the longer they stick around, the stronger they get as well. So we are forced to answer. Of course, they use Slayer Dramon to force us to attack. We're going to choose to use Agumon to attack. I know they're going to suspend down our Greymon X, which is fine. But we also get to gain a memory because we have the Black Greymon. We're going to go into the Metal Greymon here, where we get to de-digivolve them. This is why de-digivolving is still fantastic and such a good card, especially when it comes to those matchups. It gives you that kind of removal, which many decks don't have. Here we have a lot of options now. We have all the 3 different kinds of level 6s we can play with. We have BlackWarGrey, we have BlackWarGrey X, we have Gaiomon as well. We really get to choose here, and which is a really good position. I decided to go for BlackWarGreymon X because I kind of wanted to sort of get rid of their lower stack and just pressure them and try to, you know, clear it out. Regardless, we are suspended anyway, so we can't really attack over them in the end. So we are going to utilize the BlackWarGreymon X to reboot and try to delete the Ground Dramon there. But thanks to evade that they have in their inheritable, it starts at their turn. So when we reboot during their suspend phase, they get to suspend their own guy to protect against it. But very crucial this moment, because I was thinking a little bit ahead. Now that the fact that the Ground Dramon suspended, we can potentially actually get rid of it the next turn around, because they can't unsuspend at this moment, because they suspended for the evade. But also at the same time, if they find themselves another Examon and it can DNA all over again, it can be very, very difficult for us. So it really just comes down to seeing like whether they have it or not. It looks like they don't have the second Examon that they can strictly go into, so they play Blue Memory Boost, hoping to cycle through as many cards as possible to potentially see it. And that really works in our favor now, because now we can actually clear the board back to our turn. So of course, starter main, we're contemplating what to give. We're probably giving all the ties to BlackWarGrey X to give it the extra DP buff. They're contemplating if they want to use Slayer Dramon to force us to attack as well, which I believe they're contemplating if they want to here. We're also just trying to see. We get to choose on what to use the attack. I think it didn't really matter if they use it anyways, because here, even if they don't use it, we're able to clear out both bodies here. So we're gonna swing into the Ground Dramon, which is probably the most ideal play, and not the Slayer Dramon. We're just trying to correct it, and they were just asking why aren't we slaying this Slayer Dramon. That is because if we take down the Ground Dramon, they can't evade the next turn. We can't utilize our reboot, delete their guy. You know, it's not going to matter as much because they can basically evade once again. But now SlayerDramon itself doesn't have evade. So as long as that's the only body left in the board, now that when we unsuspend, we get to pop that SlayerDramon, clearing their board entirely, and we have a much better setup and way more resources than they do at this moment and point. We also get the Trasher Security, and we also have an Omni X, which they probably saw us search, I believe, earlier on too. So situation is really, really bad for them. They definitely need the extra memory. They play their Davis, finding their Examon, which is a little bit too late, but they do play Ice Wall here to sort of like lower our attacks as much as possible. But we have a lot of resources to work with. At start of main, we're gonna give both our BlackWarGrey X and our Greymon, you know, extra blocker. We can easily Digivolve, gain memory as well, build our stack, and we don't really necessarily have to like be too bothered by the Ice Wall after all, because we have, you know, we have a lot of plays we can work around. We can even use defense training if we really want to and continue to build as well. That works. We are pretty sitting in an okay spot. And we also highly doubt that they can actually go into another Examon the next turn anyways, just because they don't have enough memory. Even 3 is not enough really. So we're gonna swing in, pay 1. We're not gonna, you know, give them a bit more memory, you know, not utilizing all the memory we need to. We're sitting in a good position. We take out 1 security, trash your security as well. And here we're also just contemplating, was popping the blue memory boost the previous turn really the ideal play? Because if they have a blue memory boost here, it would have been really good for them too, because then they can easily Digivolve into level 2, Digivolve into level 3, and still be able to keep their turn and then hard slam another level 5 and get into it. But even though if they did, then that means they passed us to more memory at the start of our turn, and we still had Omni X too. So even with all that memory, we can gain memory of Tai and all that kind of stuff, and we probably, you know, reduce our Digivolution cost with defense training as well, and we can go for game with Omni X very easily there. So here they really just stuck. They only have like 2 Quartermons to set up for blocker, but it doesn't matter at this moment. I think it's just way too decided at this point because we have such a strong board established. We might be BMing here a little bit. We're just trying to play it safe just in case if they have a Heaven's Judgment, but honestly there's no excuse. Like there's no need to do all these fancy plays because we can easily just go into Omni X, trash their security, bottom deck all their same level Digimon there, and then just swing for game without having to think twice. Honestly, there's nothing that's gonna scare us in the security at this point. So yeah, I don't know what I was thinking during that. I could easily just like go into Omni X without having to do all this complicated shenanigans, but we still got the game overall, which is kind of cool anyways.
Once again, be sure to check out the AVAULT store for all our new drops. We still got our promotions ongoing until the end of the year, so don't wait too long. Definitely go ahead and check it out right away. If you want to see more BT14 gameplay videos, be sure to watch this video right here, right now as well. As always, thank you so much for watching. You guys have a great day, great night, wherever you are. See you in the next video. This is AVAULT signing out.